Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Changing the Narrative podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Gabriel Warren, along with Carl Benson. And today we have a very special guest, Sam Jasper. And I'm excited to have the conversation. I mean, it's not every day we get to sit down and talk to someone who works at NASA. So I don't want to steal your thunder, Sam, but welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Gabe and Mr. Benson. Thank y'all so much for having me on the call. I'm excited to talk with you all.
No problem, man. Look, we don't have to be formal, so just Gabriel is good.
Oh, okay.
Um, well, I know you very well, man, and the listeners, I'm sure are going to be interested in hearing more about just who you are, a little bit about your background. So, can we just start by sharing with the listeners kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I guess yeah, I'll just share about like you said, who I am and what I do on a day-to-day basis. So my name is Sam Jasper. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. And I have a beautiful wife, a family man, have 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy. And the boy is the baby, so we finally made the cut. But their ages range from 17 to 3. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm doing a lot of stuff. but professionally though, I am what is called a materials engineer. My official title is Aerospace Systems Engineer, but my training and background is in materials engineering. And so I work in the Materials and Process Laboratory at Marshall Space Flight Center, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. What I do on a day-to-day basis is so I work on several programs um, for NASA, and the programs consist of the Space Launch System, which is they call it. Everything has an acronym, so you'll hear me say acronyms a lot. So SLS is what we normally call it. And I also work on the Human Landing System, which is called HLS. And basically what we do in my uh, position is we evaluate materials, we do testing, we evaluate, we do development of spacecraft hardware for various types of spacecraft. I also work on, I forgot to mention this, I also work on the components for the International Space Station, which is called ISS. So, so I support all of those programs. Um, and um, and one of the functions, like for instance, for ISS, is I work on what's called the ECLS system. And I actually forgot the acronym for that one, but I think it's environmental anyway, I'm not going to name it anyway right now, but it's basically the system that allows the astronauts to be alive on the International Space Station. So it supports all of their climate control, their breathing, the airflow, um, the um, the urine, the waste, all of that type of stuff. So when you think about it, on Earth, we things that we take for granted. Um, when you're in space, you don't have those things. Like you could just walk down the hall and go to the toilet, right? Right? It's no brainer, right? But it's a lot that goes into using the bathroom on the International Space Station.
Wow.
So, water, we can go to the refrigerator, get some water, but the astronauts, they only are allowed a certain amount of water a day to use a day because they have to maintain the supply of water and food. And when they bathe on the International Space Station, they have water and it kind of like stays on their hand.
Mm.
The water actually kind of, instead of it being like, flowing because there's no gravity, microgravity, it stays on the hand. So they have the water like as like almost like a washcloth, and they're washing themselves with the water,
Uh,
so so it's interesting stuff like that happens, so yeah, but then so like I said, I work on the space launch system, and that is the that is the next rocket that's going to take humans back to the moon.
mm,
So we're planning on, and I also work on the human landing system. So that's the system that we're developing to land again on the moon, and on potentially on Mars, humans on Mars. So we are developing systems and to be able to do that. And that takes enormous amount of effort, from, I'm just one little peon, but it's ran by various different programs, commercial partners, like SpaceX and Blue Origin and Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and a host of others around the country that are building hardware for these specific things, and to land people back on the moon, and also to further exploration of humans in space further than we've been before.
mm. Awesome. Man, that's
I
good. Go ahead,
I have
Carl.
so many questions. I'll try to stay on task, but
Sure, sure.
I have so many questions. But let's start by like my simple question, I guess, if you will, is how long you've been working with NASA, and then also, has it always been somewhere you wanted to work? Has that been a dream of yours to work
Okay.
at NASA?
Yeah. So I have been working at NASA a total of, let's see, what is this? It's 24, total of 7 years. However, I just came on to the government. Before, for 6 years or so, I was a contractor. I just came into the government last year. So officially a year and a little over a year and a half. Um, so
And has that been a dream of yours to
Oh
work
yes, I'm sorry.
there?
Yes.
No, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yes. So in fact, yes, when I was in fifth grade, I went to the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. I'm from Atlanta. So it was a real trip for us to go to Huntsville, and we went to the Space and Rocket Center. Look at that. I know that the Space and Rocket Center is not actually NASA. That is actually owned by the state of Alabama. NASA is
Hmm.
actually behind the location in Huntsville is actually behind the gate in the Arsenal gate. It's on a military installation there. But anyway, so I went there and I had the opportunity to tour NASA. I was in fifth grade, and at that time they were building components for the International Space Station, and so we walked into a mezzanine, and there was a way for us to look into the clean room where they had these huge 30-foot cylindrical sections. Okay, 30 foot like in diameter. So
Uh,
you can imagine how how large that is, and they were people in white suits, technicians, putting it together. And that was just like, all right, I'm sold. Just
Yeah.
seeing, just seeing that, and I was like, so it was always been a dream of mine to work at NASA. Yes.
wow.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. Now I know recently I read something that talked about how competitive it is for someone to get a job at NASA. So, I know you said you wanted to do this since fifth grade, but can you talk a little bit about how competitive it is to like maybe get that job at NASA and be an official government employee?
Very difficult. I mean, I would say, maybe I shouldn't say very difficult. I should probably say, you have to have the right qualifications. I'll say that. I mean, a lot of people apply, a lot of people apply. It's very competitive. And they select, I mean, some of the people I would, they're some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life at NASA. I mean, just brilliant people when you talk to them. So it took me, sometimes I don't like to tell this, but it took me almost 10 years to become a civil servant.
Wow.
And that's just, applying and just not getting through the system, they're on the government system, and then eventually and things just kind of line. I'm a man of faith as well, so I don't think I mentioned this. I'm also a deacon at my church, so just how God aligned things for me. Um it was just really a divine opportunity, and it happened in the right time in the right place. So even though it took me a while, it happened in the way that it should have happened. I'll just say that. But yes, but yeah, it's difficult. It's not that easy. You have to, like I said, you have to have, they want people. I mean, they do accept fresh outs. What I mean by fresh outs, like fresh out of college, but a lot of times you have to, if you do that, the path to get in is usually through an internship. So I didn't necessarily do that, but coming from industry experience, I was able to leverage that. So I had another engineering experience with another space company called ULA before I came over to the government side. Well, it was actually called RUAG, but it was a Switzerland based company that they produce hardware, composite structures for ULA. So ULA is the United Launch Alliance, which they send up a host of different uh, rockets and spacecraft and satellites and stuff for various different companies. So
Awesome.
Could you just tell us a little bit more about your educational and both what you studied in college as well as kind of your career path that sort of led you to
absolutely.
NASA?
So so I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. And I studied physics there. So that kind of, laid the foundation for just, my understanding. Morehouse didn't have an engineering program itself. There was a way you can get an engineering degree at Morehouse, but you have to do a dual degree. I decided not to do that. So I actually got into a graduate program afterwards and did my engineering degree, which is just a different path. But so I have a master's in materials engineering from University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Okay.
And yeah, so my path was heavily, of course, heavily I guess influenced or consisted of math and science. Right. So
Right.
yeah. So, but here's the thing: to work at NASA, a lot of people don't know this. Everybody at NASA is not an engineer,
Mm.
right? So we have people in procurement, we have people in project management, we
Mhm.
have people in logistics, we have, I mean, pretty much everything you can think of. You have people in operations. So people who do pure science,
Okay.
you have mathematicians, you have accountants, you have
Right.
people with business degrees. So
I just had I wanted just real quick, kind of an add-on question to sort of, you kind of answered it earlier, but what's the, like, when you're applying, like,
mhm,
what are they doing? Clearly they do background checks, right?
mhm.
But can you sort of tell us a little bit about the real meat of what disqualifies a person or what qualifies a person, or what criteria do you need, or
I
when
actually
they,
don't know.
oh,
I
okay,
don't know, what I mean.
right,
So when there's a job posting, you just like
right,
any they'll have the qualifications there. For my particular job, so I needed the engineering degree from a accredited institution. So
Gotcha. Okay.
I needed it, and it could have been just a BS. I didn't have to have a graduate degree, but
Okay.
and then a lot of times for the position that I'm in, a lot of times they would want to have experience with material systems, spacecraft, building spacecraft, stuff like that. So I had experience doing that. So
very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. But like for just in general, I'm not a hiring manager, so I don't know what their qualifications are. I mean, unless it's in the job posting.
Right.
Gotcha.
No, that's good. Well, one of the reasons why we started the podcast, man, is because we love getting opportunities to talk to people like yourself, who are changing the narrative in ways that a lot of times we don't get to see on television or in the media. So, with that kind of being in mind, how important would you say it is for you as a Black man to be in the industry that you're in?
Traditionally, in my field, there aren't a lot of African Americans, or but that is changing. It is changing. I will say that I can actually say now that the organization that I'm in, it has a wealth of diversity. And so whether it be women, Hispanic, Black, people from different parts of the country or world, stuff like that. So I will say that, or Indian, stuff like that, Indian heritage. So it is changing. There are some areas where, it's still kind of like back in the day, it was just, I don't know if you've seen Hidden Figures or something like that. It was kind of like that,
Okay.
But now it is changing, like my boss, she's African American.
Okay.
In fact, we just had our director over our lab is she will be the first African American woman over the materials and process lab, which is a big deal. I mean, it's never been one in our organization. So that's, so things like that are changing.
Wow.
But it is important. So I'll say it's important to see, people of, diversity in this space, because it's, when I try to go out to schools and do stuff like that, and I try to be visible, because, when I go to school, sometimes, I hear the young guys, they'll come up and I say, well, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a football player. Or I want to be a basketball player. Or I had one person tell me they want to be a YouTuber. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a gamer on YouTube. And he was like, they make a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, they do. You're right. You're right. So, but some people, have seen me and they assume that I'm an astronaut, which I'm not. So,
Yes.
but and that's even, so you want to talk about competitive, that's even more competitive. Like they have almost 30,000 applications to become an astronaut, and like they'll select 10.
Wow. Okay.
And the criteria to be an astronaut is you have to, not only do you have to have the mental and the educational background, but you also have to have the physical background. Like you have to be physically fit, you have to be a certain height, you have to be, all of those things. Because when you think about it, when we're building a spacecraft, we have to accommodate for, the astronauts. So we have to accommodate seating, straps,
Right.
all that type of stuff. Weight. Weight is a big, big thing.
Right.
Unfortunately. mass is a very important calculation when we're launching payloads. So and
Wow.
every pound counts.
The irony of it, I think I've just watched a lot of conversations with astronauts and whatnot, and it feels like all of them, to the person, talks about probably folks like you, right? The importance of folks like you for them to do their job. So it's kind of it's interesting when you say that it's harder to be an astronaut because it sounds like without you they couldn't do their job anyway. So
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, in a
yeah,
way, yes, that's true.
right.
I mean, we make sure that our main focus is that their safety is top priority.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
make sure that they leave Earth and return back to Earth. That just, just like how they, maybe better than they left. Um, and and so yes, I mean, I get, yes, that's true. I mean, there are thousands of people that work for NASA, and we'll be responsible for 4 people,
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So what
It's always in the
motivates
back of
you?
my mind when we're
What
making decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Tell us what motivates you to do this every day. I mean, what wakes you up in the morning and gets you excited to do
It's
this?
every day is a new, excuse me, every day is a new challenge. It's like it's very, just kind of thinking about that we're actually a part of making history. That gets me going. That one day something that I helped build will land astronauts on the moon
Wow.
or potentially on Mars.
That's
So,
amazing, man. That's amazing.
It really is. Yeah.
that that alone will, and then, we're building systems to to inhabit the moon. So,
Yeah.
so before in the 60s, um, we were just there, it would be short trips, um, like 2 to 3 day trips, something like that. But now we're planning to do 30-day trips,
Mm.
planning to create a sustainable presence on the moon. Um, we're uh establishing another space station around the moon called Gateway. And that is going to orbit the moon. And so all of those type of things. So that's really exciting for me.
Yeah. Wow. Man, so clearly, professionally, there's so many different layers of what you just laid out to my next question, really, but so many different layers to success. So I'm curious to know, how would you define success? And it doesn't necessarily have to be work-wise, it could just be in life in general. If somebody asks you to define success from your perspective, what would that be?
Success is making my family proud. Um, it's something I've done that they can say that they're proud of me, that um, they always love me, but that they admire whatever I've done, and that could be whether or not whether I'm, being able to spend time with them. That's success to
Yeah.
me, Um, and so I would say that would be success to me. Just making sure that they're proud of me, and that I hadn't done something that was, not good for them, I guess.
You mentioned obviously you're a deacon at the church, and clearly you have small kids. You have kids in general, but small people as well. What else, or how do you get involved in community, or what does your community service look like, or giving back and whatnot? What does that look like?
Yeah, like I said, I try my best as much as possible to go and talk to schools. At least I go a few times a year, to go to classrooms and to young kids, and telling them about what we do at NASA, getting them excited about science and math, um, and just I mean, I'm more of a person that like I'll if there's a need, I'll try to fill it, So wherever there's a need in my church, wherever there's a need in my community, I'm the type of guy that's always just like, okay, what do y'all need? Let me help. Let me help. I can help. I mentor a few guys and stuff like that. Mhm.
What is one, misconception that you think our society has about being a Black man that if you could eradicate it today, you would say, this is the one that I want to get rid of?
Um, I think one thing that I think society has wrong about Black men is that we're not responsible. And what I mean by that is like that we don't take care of our family, that we don't take care of our children and our household, our um that we're just for some reason there's this, especially in America, I'll say, they have just misconception. I think we're three Black men on this call, and I think all of us are family men, right? So we there are Black men that are putting in the work, and making sure that our communities are taken care of. Now there are some outliers, but there are outliers in every community. It's
Right.
not just the Black community. So I think we've been kind of dealt a wrong hand in perception of how we are responsible for our families and our community.
So I know we're getting close to the end, but can you let us, how can we stay in touch with you or follow you, I guess, if you're on socials, or do you sort of
Oh yeah.
how's that look?
So yeah, on LinkedIn, you can get me on LinkedIn, Sam Jasper. It's just Sam. I think it's just Sam Jasper.
As we get ready to wrap up, I'm thinking about this final question, and I think it'd be a good way to close. So, like, we've talked a little bit about, what you just mentioned about how there's this misconception out there. So now taking it the next step, if you could rewrite that narrative, um, what would it be, if you had the power to just change the narrative, in and of some of the things that you've already talked about?
Let me see if I understand you. You said, what would I do to change the narrative?
Yeah, like if somebody came to you and said, Sam, what should the narrative be about being a Black man in America? What would you tell them?
Oh, I'll tell them that, that we're here. We are in the community. We are bankers. We are preachers. We are scientists. We've been scientists. We're engineers. We're uh, um, businessmen. We are family men. We take care of our children. I mean, I know so many fathers and family men in my community alone, in my neighborhood, that they take care of their children. They're taking their kids to school. They're at the bus stop,
Yeah,
making sure that their kids are being taken care of. So just don't believe all the stuff that you see out there on the internet, because a lot of it's just wrong.
right.
Just yeah. But yeah, if I would tell them, I would say we're here. We're doing what we have to do to be successful and to be positive. Um there's not, but like I said, that's in every community. It's just in different forms sometimes.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, man. I agree. Well, I mean, Sam, you blow my mind in just like 30 minutes, man. To be honest with you,
I
like,
don't think I did.
I
Uh,
feel like, I don't know about you, Carl, but I feel like,
yeah.
you've been by far the smartest person we've had on the podcast so far.
Oh no.
No.
I doubt that. I've seen
Nah.
the guys you've had on here. They are way smarter than me.
Look,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I'm excited because I think that there's always that, it's just the aura around NASA and overall, right? And I think that talking about space and being in space, and I had like number of questions. I was like, ask them about Mars, ask them about how we're going to get to Mars, ask them, those type of things. And it's like
Yeah.
I have
You want
so
I can tell you. I mean, I can give
well,
you
I'm very interested in on this pathway to getting us to Mars and how long or what that looks like,
yeah.
how
So
long far
so
away
I'll
we
just
are.
real quick, like I said,
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. So we're trying to develop the system. Right now, the systems that we're developing are called, like I said, gateway system, and the human landing system. And we're starting by going to the moon. And what our plan is the idea is that the moon may potentially have water ice underneath its surface that we can utilize to take. So water is hydrogen and oxygen, right? A lot of our propellant systems, a lot of our propulsion systems use liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen to operate. So the thought process is we'll be able to extract water ice from the moon and use it as a fuel source, to kind of give an understanding of or give a mechanism for us to go to Mars. Also, the thing that we're doing is so we've only for the last 60 or so years have only been in low Earth orbit, which is LEO. They call it low Earth orbit. Humans have had a sustained presence in low Earth orbit, in the International Space Station, but we've never had human um, in deep space, which would be the moon or Mars. So we're going to the moon to learn how to live in deep space. So we're going to develop habitats on the moon where scientists and engineers and people will be able to live on the moon. And actually, right now, there's a project at the Johnson Space Center that there are, I think, 3 or 4 volunteers. It's called the Chupa. I don't remember what the acronym is, but it is basically it's like a 3D printed habitat where they are living in kind of a simulation of Mars. So these people went into this habitat, and it's the whole structure is 3D printed. And they're living there for a year. And it's
Okay.
happening right now. They're living there I think it started last year, but they're living there. They're going to be living there for a year, and it's all for us to monitor how their interaction, how they use systems, how they function on off planet. That's the whole idea. So they can't once they go in, they can't come out until after. So. So we're preparing the astronauts, we're preparing the engineering systems to be able to go and do that type of exploration. And that's the work that we all are doing.
Wow.
We're even learning how to do what's called in-space manufacturing. Meaning, so in-space manufacturing is, for instance, the moon has what's called regolith, which is the ground. It's a mixture of minerals and different types of things. And we are looking at exploring because we can't bring everything with us. We need to be able to manufacture things on the moon. So if we need a chair, we need to be able to print a chair and from the regolith or something like that. If we need cable wires for electrical units, or we need to make a sensor for some type of biometric type of application, we need to be able to print that. We can't bring all that with us because it would just be too costly or take too much effort. So we're going to bring the systems to build what we need to build, like on the moon, and do that type of what we're calling in-space manufacturing in microgravity or lunar gravity. So no gravity.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man. Hey,
yeah. So those are the things that we're doing, and it's going to be really cool. Eventually, we'll be able to, have. There's this show, if you ever get a chance, it's called For All Mankind.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you seen it?
It's on my queue. It's in my queue.
Okay, so
Yeah.
watch it and watch it, and it will explain everything what we're doing right now at NASA.
Oh, got it. I'm on it. I'm on it.
I mean, it is a little fiction, so I mean, but
Sure. Yeah.
But it will, there are some things that are kind of similar to what we're doing. So
Very cool.
You said it's called For All Mankind?
I think it's either For All Mankind or All Mankind. It's something like that.
It is For All Mankind.
For All Mankind. It's on Apple TV.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Well, Sam, look, man, we can sit here and talk to you all night for real.
Absolutely.
And I mean, you piqued my interest, man. So, thank you for being on the podcast and giving us some time, man. I feel honored that you spent this time sharing with us a little bit about your day to day. So
I appreciate it. The government's off tomorrow, so thank you.
All right, man.
But no, seriously, really.
Awesome.
No, thank y'all for having me. I think this is a great platform. I was looking at some of the videos and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I like what y'all doing with it. So it's really cool.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much.
All right.